Oh, I remember the winter of '77. 4 feet of snow in our backyard in 2 days. Might have been 5. Those were the days.
Did you jump out of the second story window into like a pit of snow?
Yeah.
My dad talks about that.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Snow is good.
We hardly got that much snow in Heppner where we lived.
Mm.
Every once in a while, we wouldn't have to go to school.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
I would walk to school both ways uphill with no boots when I grew up. That's what we did in Redmond.
That's it. In the winter.
Yeah. Uphill, both ways.
So good morning, everyone. This is our Deschutes County Legislative Policy discussion Friday morning, February 14th, 8 o'clock in the morning. Let's start off. Doug Riggs, any updates to start off with? Big picture.
Yeah, I mean, the big news was yesterday, the cancellation of the day's activities, which was no surprise for any of us. The weather forecasters had been warning about that, and ODOT had told people to stay off the road. But for some reason, the legislative leadership decided to wait until 7:37 a.m. to cancel 8 o'clock hearings. So I walked into the Capitol, and I was there, and Holly Harris was also there in person to testify. So it would have been nice if they'd given us a little bit of advance notice, but they didn't. So things got canceled yesterday. There was only one hearing on the agenda for today, and they'll reconvene on Monday in spite of the fact that it's President's Day. I think the only thing I'd add over last week, and some of you were at COACT yesterday and heard this update on the transportation issue. There was a rumor or I think an expectation that some sort of a draft that we could take a look at as far as the transportation package might come out within the next week or two. That is clearly not going to happen, and I think it's been delayed because of two issues. Number one has been the governor's announcement of a project labor agreement executive order, which has, I think, delaying things. And the second was an article talking about the audit that was conducted last year that finally has been released. An analysis came out of the Statesman Journal. And I think what's going to happen is legislators are going to take some time to look at those two items as they work through drafting a transportation package. So on top of that, the legislature continues to plow ahead with hearings and work sessions. I think we'll start to see the floor be more active in the next week or two. Then just a couple things. There are 2 hearings of note coming up from a Central Oregon perspective. Well, a bunch. Number one will be public testimony on the CJC budget, which I think that staff will discuss later in the call. But the governor's budget leaves out impacts funding, which is a big concern for counties. And then on Wednesday, there's going to be a hearing on the Juniper issue. Just got scheduled yesterday, so there'll be a hearing on the 2 versions of that bill. One is Representative Breeze Iverson's bill, so that bill will be up on Wednesday. The Soil and Water Conservation Districts, among others, will be testifying. And then on Thursday, there's a hearing on the Core 3 bill. So I just point those.
Doug, what's the number for the Juniper bill?
3078 is the main bill that includes all the updates, and then 31.
35.
Yeah, it's in our bill tracker list.
Yeah, we're going to talk about it when we go through our list, Commissioner.
Yeah. So we'll get to that. So stay tuned. So that's all I've got for now.
Great, thank you. Any commissioner updates specifically this morning?
I just wanted to ask that we revisit House Bill 2024 as discussed at our board meeting on Wednesday.
Is that on our list specifically, Jen?
I did not get that on there. My apologies. I can pull it up and we can give a refresher on that and then discuss it.
Okay. Another point of business.
2024. Yes, I went back and looked at my notes. Yes, I was unaware that we were a one support on that issue. I was in the meeting, listening to the testimony. I voted incorrectly. The good news is, my vote changing the way the county had wanted me to would not have changed the outcome of AOC. I'm really sorry. I did miss that bill. I won't let that happen again in the future. But yeah, I looked at the vote. If my vote would have flipped, it still would not have passed. But I'm thank you for pointing that out. I won't let it happen again.
So that reminds us.
And it is on the, I'm sorry, it is on the list. It's under behavioral health. I was looking.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
So yeah, AOC meets monthly. We're meeting weekly. Deschutes County's taken positions. Commissioner Dare was in the room at the Ledge Committee of AOC. It's just a reminder that, yeah, when Deschutes County takes a position, that would be the will of the board. So, and I support that also.
And, you know, just to keep talking about this specific bill, my understanding is that the AOC Ledge Committee sent it back to the Health and Human Services Committee, so should be under discussion again next month at AOC Legislative Committee.
Great. So we'll dial in, as I say, the will of Deschutes County's positions on this as time goes on. Thank you. So as I say, another point of order, a note for the day is Happy Valentine's Day, everybody. So this is the 14th of February, big snow day out there. We do have a few letters and some topics. Let's do that at the end. We'll finish up with that is what I'm thinking. So let's get to the topics, the bills, the positions on the ones we haven't taken, and then go from there. Janice, I see your hand raised.
I just want to thank all three of you for supporting House Bill 2024 and Commissioner Adair. I appreciate owning a mistake in a big public meeting. It is not easy, and kudos to you for doing that. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Right. So as I say, let's start working through the bill list so we can take positions and hear some good content for each item. Unless, Jen, you have anything else kind of specifically?
No, if we're gonna do the letters of support at the end, that's all I had to go.
Yep. Okay, good. Well, I guess, yeah, one more note. So fire map, we did have our community discussion on that. As I say, it wasn't set for public hearing, but it was pressured into it, which is fine. We had support by the Board of Commissioners on that fire map. You know, it's a dynamic world on that right now. I did send a letter to our Senator Golden, CC'd the governor's office. Senator Golden said he'd like to see it, you know, kind of blockier and more regional or whatever, but, you know, it was just kind of his words. And then the governor's office hasn't engaged or responded specifically. They're working through their policy people on that. So we'll see what comes out. So it's kind of up in the air right now, but it is a topic that a lot of people are engaged in.
The problem with that fire map is that the consequences don't end with just the map. It's written into other legislation where people that have properties such as I have will no longer be allowed to build anything because I'm in these terrible, terrible designations. As you know, just love to point that out. The gift that does not stop giving.
Yeah, a lot of moving parts on that right now.
The hazard maps require that if people want to build new things in high hazard areas, they need to use wildfire resilient building materials. Isn't going to cost that much more for people.
So as I say, I was able to see the governor on Monday. I asked her specifically, you know, just go ahead and take a leadership role. What's the clarity from governor's office on this? And I'm sure there's a lot of discussions happening. So back to our bill list. Let's start at the top and get through this thing today. We've taken positions on a lot of bills. Jen, can you walk us through?
Yep, the first bill is on page 2. It's HB 2410. I don't know if Doug has background information on this, but this allows the energy facility siting council to issue a site certificate for a small modular reactor energy facility demonstration project in Umatilla County.
Well, I can take that a little bit also. So this was just brought to us on the table when we met with the governor on Monday. Umatilla County is an advocate for it. Governor's response was, yeah, 1980 was a point in time. You know, maybe there is more discussion to be had in Oregon with the next gen technology. So it, you know, it's just basically it's a bill to allow Oregon to think like maybe there's a modular reactor technology that would fit in the state of Oregon. So I don't know that it's a high priority for Deschutes County, but I'd like to take a position of thumbs up, if there's support for that. And then Doug, can you, and we'll get to that, but Doug, any other thoughts?
Yeah, thanks, commissioners. The only thing I'd add on this is I think this is springing out of a discussion about the number of data centers and the large power usage, as well as the lack of transmission capacity around the state. And so my guess is that this is the beginning of a conversation. I would be surprised if the bill passed, but I do think it gets the discussion started. And I'm aware that the governor's office is looking at this as well.
Any other thoughts, commissioners?
I think nuclear power is great, until we don't have a place to put the waste. So, I mean, if there's discussion about streamlining the permitting process for, nuclear energy facilities, what I would want to see before I would support that is thoughtful, thoughtful treatment of how you deal with the waste.
And I think this is truly just a bill to allow that discussion to happen. So I don't mind putting in a priority position support, letting it go to 3, just leaving the discussion we're having today as the position. As I say, I don't know that we want to be strong legislative advocates, a lot of resources, but just taking a position. Commissioner Dare?
Support, yes, my grandson's studying nuclear engineering, whatever, in college when he gets back from his mission in Argentina. And definitely, we talk about it all the time, so.
So as I say, we don't need to take it much farther. I would like to change the position to support then. And as I say, we can put a priority 3, which will probably drop it off of this list anyways, but at least Doug's heard us talk about this and it comes up, we can, say our piece.
I just wouldn't vote for support until we knew that there was adequate provisions for waste planning and waste management.
Understood. So as I say, the common ground, as I say, I'm proposing is that priority 3 support, which was just, mild support for it.
Yeah, I still wouldn't want to say support until we understand whether that, and it's quite possible that in the authority that they still leave to FSEC that there is such planning, but I haven't been told that. And I would want to see that. And this is just a stone throw away from Hanford. And we can see how good, how well nuclear waste has been handled there.
So Commissioner Dare shows a position of support. So do you support priority 3, Commissioner? You're on mute.
Yes, 3 is
Okay.
fine.
As I say, kind of half stepping into support at this point. So priority 3 support position, which Jen, is that going to drop it off of our list?
Yep, and I'll get notifications on it. So if something happens, I can pop it back up for a discussion.
Yep, there. Okay, thank you. So moving on, what's the next one?
Next on page 3, HB 3104. I believe this is one of the core 3 bills.
This is a bill that came out of a statewide group called iSector. iSector has a number of former leaders in housing, economic development, et cetera. They have an office in the Portland area, but they've been working with rural Oregon as well. And this is a proposal to create kind of rural workforce centers that would have a staff. I think in the bill they list 7 staffers: economic development and land use and housing and financing, and engineering, et cetera, as the 7 categories. And then they are tasked with working with local jurisdictions to assist in housing development, economic development, et cetera. So this is something that's coming out of a statewide group that has been involved in many of the housing conversations in the past. They're also supporting another bill that's not on this list, but I'll put it on the list for future consideration, for construction of modular housing. So this is part of kind of a larger effort. So that's House Bill 3104.
So this would be, development support. And this really does fit into my thought process of kind of some of those small crossroad communities in the state of Oregon like Crescent, Northern Klamath County, they've been given money to implement a sewer system in their community, and they're basically just underfunded. And, they're not over the hump of implementing a system, and they're right on the edge. And it's existing parcelized, it's existing rural community, not incorporated. But there's opportunities like that, as I say, existing small parcels, which would empower residential and commercial at existing crossroad communities across Oregon. So I would support this. Any other thoughts?
The Business Oregon and other Oregon state agencies are already doing this. So, I mean, is this just to formalize that a little bit, or, add focus and resources? I think that's appropriate. Infrastructure is, as we know, from big cities to small cities, it's the critical bottleneck on housing.
Commissioner Adair. Oh. Any thoughts, Commissioner Adair? 3104.
I'm fine with it.
So I could support priority 3 again. So it's the same situation, kind of a thumbs up, priority 3, not in our wheelhouse per se. There could be other opportunities where, if there's efforts in southern Deschutes County to just take some small group of properties, like in a road district or an existing platted development that wants to work towards this, could be professional and technical help. But so how about a priority position 3 of support?
3 is fine.
I mean, if this could help bring focus and organization to the idea of seeking out some targeted areas for Goal 11 exceptions, some small focused targeted areas in South County, then then this could be a real benefit. Clearly, this Board of Commissioners, working with the state, has not been able to constructively move that discussion forward, and it might be useful to have a third party entity that's a little bit more representative of all stakeholders and less political involved in the issue.
You support priority 3 support?
Well, so the question is, is this potentially forming organizations that could help us work on a Goal 11 exception? In which case, I would actually bump up the priority.
So I remember, Greg Wolf is our community member in the state that's worked with AOC over the years, and this is something he's advocating for. So he thinks he sees the need across the state. And as I say, it's not well defined. I mean, he may have a lot more information on this, but is this moving on? Is there support for priority 3 support?
But if we make it priority 3, it drops off our list, right? So
Priority 2 support.
2 is fine.
I would like to know more.
Okay. So keeping it priority 2 support is going to keep it on the list as it evolves. It's still early in the session. If it comes up again, we'll have more information.
Great.
Or could we request that staff do a little bit of research on this and bring us back an answer on that question of Goal 11 exceptions?
So how about?
I can look into that.
Thank you.
So let's put watch on there then.
Got it.
Priority 2 watch. Okay. Priority 2 watch for today. Thank you.
Great. Next up is HB 3135, Commissioner DeBonne. This is the one you added yesterday afternoon.
I'm looking at 3175 on the page here. Was it added after?
3135. Oh, I sent out an updated version too
Oh, okay.
after your email. So this is,
So this is 3 o'clock and then,
Yeah, and I can talk about this, Jen.
Okay,
okay, I
great.
got it. I got the right next one. Okay.
So
Go ahead.
this is a kind of a bill that Vicky Breeze Iverson filed to extend the Soil and Water Conservation District grants that were passed last session for the 7 regions. I'm heavily involved in this. In fact, there will be a hearing on this bill and the elements of House Bill 3078 that are very similar. By the beginning of the week, I should have a presentation, a storyboard that actually COIC has worked on. They got some funding to help summarize the results of the first phase of these grants, and they've done some very impressive work. So I'll be able to share that with you. But this is kind of the companion bill. One or the other of them will move, I think, through the committee and head down to Ways and Means. I don't know which one yet. That'll be for Representative Helm to decide. But this is part of that kind of overall package.
So juniper removal.
Yeah, and I'd say two things. First of all, they have all the soil and water conservation districts have focused on areas where they think that it would make a hydrological difference in particular. So in Deschutes County, the pilot project has been out around White's Creek, and they've actually been able to clear more acres than they anticipated with the dollars that they received. And they received one of the smaller grants, but were able to leverage that with some other work that they were doing.
Yeah, so I was included on an email yesterday, so I sent it to Jen, asked her to put it on here for discussion today. Any thoughts, commissioners?
I'm supportive of juniper treatments. I think that the issue is not being framed for greatest benefit for Deschutes County. If we talked about community wildfire protection as a goal of juniper treatments, I think we could be more at the center of juniper treatment efforts rather than on the margin. And then we would be in a position to advocate for them allocating even larger amounts of funding to a program like this.
So once again, being early in the session, knowing that juniper treatments for water or for fuel reduction seems to be in our wheelhouse, do we take a position of to support?
Again, I would want to see it. I would want to see that emphasis on hazardous fuels reduction to support. So I mean, I would advocate for a watch.
Commissioner Adair?
I'm a one support. You know me and junipers, I am like, please. I'm surrounded by junipers.
Thank you. Well, how about, let's go to to support. Doug's kind of on the lead on this. This can be a discussion. It'll be on our list, as I say, early in the session. And, with our lobbying efforts with Doug here, understanding that advocacy for fuel reduction and, water mitigation and landscape, restoration for young junipers seems to be the priorities of Deschutes County.
Thank goodness Doug grew up on Klein Falls. So he's seen what has happened to our region. Yeah, Doug, you're not that old, but it's a good thing that you grew up here.
Okay, so as I say, early in the session, if it comes up again, we can add more to the discussion. I support a position of, so we kind of went three different ways, but to support is what I'm proposing. Is there anything?
I can go there.
Yeah, okay.
And I'm
Good.
going to flag that there's a hearing on this too, next Wednesday at 8 a.m.
Well, we might want to put in, Commissioner Chang, letters saying, fuel reduction management, historical landscape, there's some good terms right in there. Do we want to send a letter of support or a letter of position?
Could we please?
I think it should be, before we start asking about fuels reduction, I think we should actually know whether that is an emphasis of the current draft of the bill. And if it's not, then I think we should be submitting a letter asking for that to be elevated in focus.
Yeah, I can weigh in here a little bit. The initial bill did mention wildfire risk reduction as a goal. The main goal of the projects, because the funding was so limited, was focused on that hydrologic benefit, soil moisture, stream restoration, creek flow, those types of issues. But and I think you'll see this when I forward the storyboard. Wildfire is a fairly significant talking point in what the districts have come up with. And in all, I think in all the projects, there's been a dual benefit. So the goal is obviously to preserve water resources in topographies and habitats which are really lacking, and that's if you're doing that by removal of excess junipers, then you are attempting to accomplish both goals at the same time. So yes, you are reducing the impact of overgrowth of juniper in soaking up water resources, but you're also eliminating trees which could be inflammatory in a wildfire. So
Roman candles.
yeah, so I
Well,
think you accomplished both. And Commissioner Chang, I can get you some data from the districts on that, and I'll try to find that today and send it your way.
And we're going to be in a
As,
unique
as you're reflecting, in the current the allocation from the prior bill, the area where you can do juniper treatments and have hydrologic benefits within Deschutes County is relatively small. And if treating junipers for fuels reduction benefits to protect people's homes from burn to the ground is a focus of ours, we might very well be better served advocating for more money to be put into the landscape resiliency program that was created by Senate Bill 762, which we were able to secure, not just us, but across a variety of stakeholders, we were able to secure over $6 million from in 2022, much of which went into hundreds of acres of juniper treatments. So, I just want us to have an appropriate focus on why we're doing juniper treatments, and then, bet on the horse that, is best going to serve our interests in Deschutes County.
So remember, we've got a Soil and Water Conservation District that has a funding base now. So any dollars, and this is in partnership with them, with any dollars that go in are going to be amplified by local funds on this. So
That's right. And the Soil and Water Conservation District works with private landowners to do juniper treatments as well. So, for community wildfire, I mean, if you ask the Soil and Water Conservation District how many projects they're doing, how many juniper projects they're doing for water resource impacts, and how many they're doing for hazardous fuels reduction, the number of projects they're doing, the juniper projects that they're doing for fuels reduction benefits is going to be vastly larger.
So I support putting a letter together with some of this content here.
And I'm with you, but I want it to be informed by what the bill actually says. Again, if there is,
Yep, that's fine. Let's do our homework on it and move on. So we're real close here, I think. So 3135 was priority 2 positioned support letter to follow.
Thank you, Jen, for putting together a letter.
I will do my best with taking notes on the
Oh, it's
discussion.
going to be fun.
Yeah, no, we'll get there. Okay, next.
Next, we have the clerk's office. So Commissioner, I think you have the old version. We're not discussing 3173. That's already been discussed under roads.
I got the
And-
new one up. It was the next email.
Okay, great.
Fine.
So we have Senate Bill 578, and we have Steve here to talk about it.
Good morning, commissioners. And everybody else. I not entirely prepared to discuss this, but I do generally support it. This bill 578 establishes the date by which a candidate or the candidate's agent must file a portrait and statement for the purposes of being included in the voters pamphlet So what this will do will help alleviate some of those time constraints that are put on the clerk's offices while processing voters pamphlet statements. So you have a candidate that files to run for office, they can place a statement in our voters pamphlet for the counties that do have that. And I think it's roughly a dozen counties produce a voters pamphlet. The deadlines are really, really tight. And so as of the last day, and candidates will often wait for that last day to submit that that statement to us. We need to compile that. We need to upload that to our vendor that puts our pamphlet together. We have to proof that. It's time intensive, and there's really no room for error. So dealing with a really tight timeline, it's problematic. So I believe this bill could stem from Multnomah County. I know that they had the intent of helping stretch some of these deadlines or push some of these deadlines forward so that we're not up against it. But what it does, I think it stops short of helping with all of our other filing deadline constraints. So the Canada filing deadline, it's very similar with that. We have to put our ballot together in order to prepare it and have our ballots printed before getting them in front of voters. Nonetheless, I still generally support this bill. Yeah, the time frames are already razor thin. So anything that can help alleviate some of that pressure would be entirely helpful.
So it's proposed as a priority to support from the clerk's office. Any other discussion?
So Steve, am I following correctly? Basically, this would move up the date that a candidate needs to file their picture and their pamphlet statement.
Correct. Yep. It moves that deadline up. I'm not sure about the start date, but it does move that deadline up, which is helpful. As of right now, the deadline as it stands, once that deadline hits, we have a day or two tops before we need to finalize our pamphlet and have that to our printer in its final version. And all of those iterations of an earlier filer, we would have already sent that statement to our vendor and proofed it. But until you get that last proof, that you have to proof top to bottom a couple of times, you don't have the whole picture until the end.
Does the bill specify how much? Like how many? Weeks, months?
It specifies days. I think it saves us by a week.
Yeah, if we're talking about a week, I'm supportive.
Thanks.
I would agree.
Okay, thank you very much. So number 2, support on that.
Great.
Thank-
Next, we move to page 7, community justice. So I see DB here.
Good morning, commissioners. I actually don't have any real updates on this. There is a hearing, as you note, on SB 816 next week, I believe. The Juvenile Directors Association is in support of this, and I've asked, of course, for our support too. There's no ask of county-specific resources or input at this time.
So assess existing primary prevention programs and youth substance use screening referral programs. So it's kind of a inventory bill to take a look at the big picture.
Yes, that's HB 3375. That is not the bill of which I was just discussing.
Oh,
That is the
okay.
first one.
Well, I'm glad I mentioned it.
No.
What bill are you talking about?
SB 816, which is the second bill on there that has a hearing next week. So no news to report. We do support it. The Juvenile Directors Association will be making presentation, I believe, but nothing specific of the county is needed at this time.
Okay. And 816 has already had the commissioners support it to support.
Yes.
DB, we did have a new bill come up for community justice, which is 3375 with a recommended to support that the commissioners haven't discussed yet.
Yes, that is what I know about it. As far as if we're finished with 816, no questions there. Okay, yeah, 3375 does appear to be another let's look, let's add. We do support it because what is finally doing is specifically talking about young people in terms of substance use, as opposed to just creating generic substance use disorder prevention programs and then adding youth back into them. It's putting youth at the center of that conversation. It is a talk bill though, yes. I don't think it's much of an action bill.
So yeah, but the proposal is a position 2 priority support. Any other discussion?
DV, I mean, you're saying this is really pretty unique, and the fact that it is focusing on children, do we have an age range for it?
I believe it's 10 to 17, that classic juvenile adolescent population.
Okay, because as much as we can support this and make sure, does it have a life, Doug? Is it going to get through?
Well, that's a very good question. I'll reach out to Rep. Sanchez, who who sponsored the bill. There are a lot of study bills in this session, more so than I've ever seen, and a lot of them tend to be placeholders. I know that the House Behavioral Health and Healthcare Committee, chaired by Representative Rob Noce, is working through about 25 different behavioral health, workforce, and behavioral health bills. This will be one of them that they'll incorporate into their thinking. My guess is they put a bunch of ideas into a smaller number of bills. Haven't seen their list yet, but I would expect in the next 2 to 3 weeks that we'll see more clarity on that.
So is there support for this proposed position?
So sorry. So DV used the phrase talk bill. And Doug just said study bill. Is this a study bill, or is this kind of basically a resolution?
No, this is not a resolution. It's a bill to study and analyze what resources are available. My input on this is that we already know that there are almost no youth substance use disorder resources for youth programs, especially for nonprofit programs that don't have high reimbursement rates. So I would hope that this bill could be turned into something that would be an action-oriented bill, and not just a study bill. And many study bills that study this end up being action bills. So I can take a look into this and check with Rep. Sanchez's office and see what her plans are.
So sometimes it's important to have the official state report in order to have a bill the next session, right? So, okay.
So you support that position, proposed position?
Sure. Yeah.
Commissioner Dare?
Most definitely.
Okay, thank you very
We
much.
need to work our magic and get something actually done, Doug.
Our magic.
Isn't that what it is? Magic?
Thank you.
Okay, next we're on page 10, Finance HB 3325. Saw Robert. Oh, there's Robert right in the middle.
Yep. Good morning, commissioners, everyone. House Bill 3325 deals with TRT, transient room tax. The law actually refers to it as transient lodging tax, TLT. So you may see that variation there. There are two other study bills that aren't on this list, but there's a couple study bills there that there may be groups forming as well. But this one, the reason why this one's on the list is because it does propose an adjustment to the first 5% of transient lodging taxes to be able to use for differently than how it's used now. As you know, the split is 70% towards marketing or tourism facilities and 30% for general county government, right? Or general government. This would allow the first 5%, of the first 5%, 70% could be used for essential services for general government services, and then 30% towards tourism and tourism-related facilities. So it flips the script on the first 5%, and then the rest of the allocation would follow the normal suit. So I did put a support on 2 for that, where it's not the major TRT or TLT change that we might hope for, where we want to. I'm assuming, and Doug, if you know more, if there's going to be other TRT, TLT bills coming that would really adjust the 70-30 split. That's really what we want or we'd like. But this one, at least, it's something.
Yeah, there was another bill introduced just yesterday. I think it's 3356. Jen and I are going to put that on the list. That is the local government proposal. It does not, as drafted, adjust the 70-30, but it allows more uses within the 30%, including public safety, public facilities to respond to an influx of tourism, and housing. So I think that some version of all of these three will be in the mix.
And that's where one last comment. If the new bill 3356 coming up does support public safety, obviously, as you know, commissioners, we support public safety from our discretionary portion. This would allow us, if passed, to the bill upcoming, to use our allocated portion to public safety and not our discretionary portion.
Thank you. Commissioner Dare?
I'm not unmuted.
Yeah.
No, I think it's important if we can support this, leaving it at a 2.
Okay, Commissioner Chang?
I would love to know what local stakeholders think about this. Of all the, you know, the tourism, whatever they're calling themselves right now, of all the destination management organizations, you know, I think ours locally, you know, Visit Central Oregon, Visit Bend, you know, our cities, our city-run DMOs in Sisters and Redmond, you know, I think they get it. Yeah, you know, I'd be interested, you know, not that I want us to exactly mirror what you know, what their positions are, but I think that it would be helpful for us to go in with a united front on this issue. So would like to know more about where some of our local DMOs stand on this issue, and what they could, you know, what they could support that we could support.
Well, and I like that idea too, because we don't want to burn bridges here. Deschutes County is a destination and Deschutes County proper with destination resorts, you know, the rural activity that's happening here. So I'd like the idea of a two support at this time, knowing there's a big picture here. Either it's going to be a go or no go in the legislative session. So, you know, either these are going to fade away or they're going to get traction. And then also, yeah, absolutely respecting our partnerships and the you know, appropriate level of investment for marketing. But I think there is support for reinvestment. We've already seen that in the last few years, that all parties are agreeing some items here.
Yeah, no, I mean, when I've spoken generally about this concept with our local DMOs, they're all like, oh yeah, well, you know, we need to be putting more of the, you know, the treasure we get into local services. And then it gets to the state level politics, and then they just start laughing about Orla, right? So it you know, they're going to be good guides for us on what is politically feasible.
Yep. So you support at this time?
Yeah, but again, you know, as I've said with so many things today, we need to do more work to, you know, to come up with a good position on it. I mean, I would actually, if there's a chance that there's a bill that is going to be viable this session, this could mean millions of dollars for Deschutes County that we can use for a broader range of services. And I think that that's worth a priority one. Once we know more.
Well, and then how about we put on a back burner that maybe we have a work session with our transient lodging tax partners in response to this. You know, as I say, let's look for the opportunity, because it's going to be either go or no go, and Doug will have a feel for that. And then ask everybody to get together. Let's do it in a public meeting and just discuss about what that partnership could look like if it's got traction.
I think that's a good idea for a work session.
Okay.
So I'll leave it to support, but I'll work with Robert and Doug with these.
And it could be a big issue if it gets traction. Yep.
Next up, one more for Robert, HB 3518.
So commissioners, this is a first bill it is important to AOC. They're tracking this bill. Also, obviously, it's also important to the assessor's office, tax collectors as well. This deals with assessment and taxation funding, and provides, it's revamping the model of how it currently works now. So this, again, this is the first bill I've seen, and Doug, you can let us know later if there's going to be additional bills. But what this bill does, it increases the clerk's fee that's charged from $10 to $19, and then 50 cents for the 50 cents of that for the county, and 50 cents for the county clerk. And let's see my notes here, $18 to the county assessment and taxation fund. It also directs 0.3% of property tax monies to the state county assessment taxation fund, but it lowers the delinquent interest. It doesn't, the delinquent interest is taken out of the mix. And it also increases the state general fund contribution into this assessment fund. A lot of complicated pieces, but what it is, it's trying to provide additional funding for the counties. They've been studying this. The percentage of assessment and taxation costs funded by CAFA from the state has decreased from 28% in 2001 down to 16%. So of our $8.5 million that we spend in the assessors and the taxation office, we get, it varies by year, every year from $800,000 to $1 million. So it's not covering our costs. So this is an attempt to capture some funding for assessors and taxation.
Commissioner Chang?
Or
Support the priority one. So yeah, I talked to Scott Langdon about this and, you know, he's supportive as the assessor. And Steve Dennison, have you followed this one? Is this in the world of the clerks?
Commissioner, I have to be honest, I haven't heard of this bill yet, and
Oh.
following our legislative committee as an association,
Yep.
I'm surprised that as we've reviewed thousands of bills collectively, that this hasn't bubbled to the top. But it sounds like another one similar to the survey of the Land Corner Preservation Fund that if moved forward, that you know, we are just the point of process and collecting for if this is approved. So
Great.
I will review.
Thank you. Commissioner Dare.
I would support it.
Okay, and I would too. This is direct effect to our general fund and the discussions we've been having recently about our structural imbalance. So let's go forward with that priority one support.
Great, got that. Next, just gonna flag on page 13, I think we're talking about the end, but Tom Cohen, who's on, submitted a letter of support for HB 5025. They have an upcoming hearing on Monday.
Wednesday.
On Wednesday, sorry, should let you talk. The commissioners have already indicated one support, but Tom is looking for commissioner's signature on the letter. So up to you if you want to just give that approval now. We circle a letter if we want to discuss it further at the end when we have the other letters of support.
Commissioner Chang.
be approving signature support now.
And Commissioner Dare.
Yes, I'm happy to do that.
And I support that also. Okay.
All right, that was easy. I'll have Brenda circulate that for signature. Great.
Thank you.
Thanks, next up, page 15. These are our last two bills I think we're reviewing today, the natural resource bills. So turn it over to Kevin Moriarty to start with SB 85.
Yeah, good morning. Yeah, SB 85 is a seems to be a similar bill that was proposed last year. It directs the state fire marshal to establish a neighborhood protection cooperative grant program. So that grant program would be established through the state fire marshal, and they'd come up with the criteria for that program. Local governments, fire districts, and NGOs would be eligible for those grants. Also, part of that grant program would require home assessments and official training to do those assessments, and that'd be a requirement. The grant itself would be based on fire risk, economic barriers, and likely to be successful. And then the additional piece to the program would be an insurance risk reduction certification program, where with those assessments, if they were conducted and the work was successful, they would develop a plan to that potentially could lower the cost or better terms for policies. And then the grant program itself, it would direct $5 million into a cooperative grant program fund. I did support this bill, but I just don't have any more information about it.
Commissioner Dare.
So support with the two. That's enough, Kevin?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I'm willing to testify on this. It's a, you know, we run grant programs really similar to what this bill is stating. It really is just the homeowner assessment piece and the certification piece.
Doug.
Yeah, this is one of Senator Golden's bills. I fully expect that this will be heard and probably will move in some way, shape, or form. The questions about insurance have come up time and time again, as they did in your commission meeting on Wednesday. And this is one of the opportunities perhaps to address some of those issues. I will note that the the assessments are voluntary for homeowners, not mandatory for homeowners. So if homeowners and neighbors wanted to participate in this, there would be this opportunity to receive a certificate that might be helpful with insurance rates, and also might make them eligible for additional funding, but it wouldn't be a mandatory program for homeowners.
Doug, speaking of insurance rates, you know, the other day when I asked everyone in the Capitol, what is our insurance capacity if you can't get insurance and you have to go to the Oregon Fair Plan? Well, I Googled it and it is 600,000. But then I talked to an insurance agent, Tammy Taylor, who was in the room, and she goes, but Patty, there are all these complicating factors to the Oregon Fair Plan insurance. Something's got to be done with that in order to make it more accessible to people in our community. Can you please look into that? I did mention it to Representative Emerson Levy, but yeah, Tammy said there are just so many problems with it. It's at 600,000 and people are losing home sales because there is no insurance. So I don't know if the buyer would be adequately happy with the Oregon Fair Plan, but the way it stands now, I don't believe they would.
Thank you. Commissioner Chang.
Our constituents are asking us and the state to help them with their insurance premium increases, coverage contractions. This is one of the only things I have seen that proactively tries to address that. So, I mean, you know, you can write bills about not using the wildfire hazard map for insurance purposes, and I don't think that that's really happening anyway. But this actually takes the further step of saying these people did the work. We are giving them the thumbs up, and we want the insurance industry to recognize that, which is, I think, that the limits of what the government can do in a private sector dominated area of activity, of economic activity. I mean, insurance companies are private businesses, and this is about the best I think government can do in terms of helping people with their with their insurance premium and coverage concerns, helping them really do the work to make their homes safer, and then requiring the insurance industry to recognize that. So I'm supportive. I'd love to hear from Kevin actually how easy it would be to essentially convert a FireWise community into one of these neighborhood protection cooperatives to get this certification. It sounds, from the sounds of it, one of these neighborhood protection cooperatives is basically a FireWise community with the kind of an additional aspect of, if you get a certain threshold and a certain number of neighbors on board, a certain percentage of the neighborhood on board, then you get a certification.
Yeah, Commissioner Chang, I think the biggest thing with the FireWise community is, you only have to have 8 landowners in a neighborhood to become a FireWise community. So, there'd probably have to be a little bit higher level of compliance, I would assume, to get that kind of certification. The way I read it, it would be more of a neighborhood certification than an individual certification. So that was where it was a little unclear on the voluntary aspect with the homeowner assessment, what those requirements would be. So, if there was some metrics put to it as far as a percent of homeowners within that neighborhood to receive that certification, that might improve that clarity and feasibility of that actually happening.
So that's the intent, to get a higher percentage, but the bill doesn't specify like a ratio or a percentage or anything like that.
Not at this time.
So 2 support is a good position to start today.
I might encourage 1.
So are there dependencies with the wildfire map here? That'd be my one question.
Not that I know of.
Commissioner Adair.
Does Kevin know? Is it related to the wildfire map?
No, it doesn't seem to be tied to the wildfire map. It's really just tied to Oregon State Fire Marshal grant programs, which they already have right now. It really just would kind of bolster those programs and really try to tie the insurance piece to it.
And I would conclude that this is something we've basically been doing through Project Wildfire and certified communities already. And it's always just a function of how much money do we have to help with, because we're setting the culture, we're setting the expectations, we're doing the education, and then how much money do we have to help somebody that needs help?
And what we just had advertised, what, 75,000 is all we
Yeah.
had? And the good news is we now have 78 Firewise communities. So that's good, but
Okay, so Commissioner Chang, you're proposing a number 1 support. Commissioner Dare, do you support that?
sure.
Okay, we'll put a number 1 next to it here today. 678, this steps right into fire map. I would take a position of watch on this, knowing that right now is when people are talking hot on this. This goes all the way of undoing the whole 762, and talking to folks already, they're like, it looks like there's common ground on some items, but the map itself is the item that is hard to digest. So any other thoughts on that?
Yes, I would say watch. Something has got to happen. As you heard in our testimony the other day, the man with the 10 acres said, what do you want me to do? Asphalt my 10 acres? It was moderate right next door. He had no trees, something has to be done. So definitely watch.
Commissioner Chang?
Yeah, I would love to see maps that better reflected the actual wildfire hazard across Deschutes County. In my opinion, that means we would have to have more properties classified as high hazard. And with the misunderstanding in our community about what being classified as a high hazard is, that will cause a whole bunch of drama and turmoil. So, because of all of that, I don't expect anything productive to come out of this or other bills. So I'm not.
To watch at this time, knowing this is a hot topic, and we'll see where it goes. As I say, I'll be
Drama and turmoil. Do you know what this is going to do to the property taxes of Deschutes County for the rural residents that have invested their life savings into their property, and now they are labeled high risk, and they have cleaned and they've worked, and just as Tracy testified, I drive by her house every day. I cannot believe that she is high risk. It's drama and turmoil. Yeah, I totally agree with what they're saying. It's going to impact our property taxes sooner or later, folks.
If you look across the Western landscape, there are a whole lot of high hazard areas, very hazardous areas where people still are dying to move in. And what really kills property values and markets is when that inevitable fire destroys hundreds of homes in a community. So I think that's the key thing that we need to be guarding against.
So being
in terms of
858,
market signals, that's a far more powerful market signal than adopting a map that the insurance industry is not using to set people's coverage and premiums.
being 8:59 p.m., we've taken a position of watch at this, knowing that this is a hot topic. Let's get to those letters before we go. I know we
Yeah, great.
have 9:30 here specifically.
Thank you. I just wanted to flag, on the very last page is HB 2062. The commissioners have already taken a 2 support on there. Tim Brownell is planning on testifying or submitting testimony. I can't remember which one you said, Tim, but just wanted to flag that. But that's within the kind of policy the board's agreed upon if you've
Okay.
already taken a position.
What's
So
the
we
bill
have,
number?
sorry,
What was the bill number?
2062. It's the battery recycle bill that
Yep,
Tim
okay.
talked about a couple weeks ago.
Great. Yeah, we got some good examples of fires in the landfill. Any other words, Tim, real quick?
No, that's it.
Thank you very much for joining us for an hour, so you can get that in.
Right?
Okay, so we have 2 more letters of support. One of them we discussed briefly, we discussed during the board meeting on Wednesday. It's the Terrebonne Sanitary District. Todd Cleveland and Peter worked together to put the letter of support. It's for the community initiated project funding request for the sanitary district. I sent the draft to you all on what day? Wednesday after yesterday. Gosh, what day are we on? Yesterday morning, I think. So just wanted to confirm that the draft looks good and it's ready to circulate for signature, or if you had any changes to that draft.
I was able to pull it up just now. So this is the one to federal.
Yes, it's to it's a community initiated project. I think it's separate from the CDSs. I'm not sure the funding source there, but it is specifically the ask from the Terrebonne district to write the letter of support to the senators Wyden and Merkley.
Yeah. So in light of, big federal changes right now, in light of our experienced senators in Washington, D.C., I'm supportive of putting a letter out knowing that water, sewer, and road infrastructure investments seem to be a great spot to help alleviate housing needs in our community. But also knowing that we're kind of going out on a plank here and with the big dynamics at the federal. So I'm supportive of the letter.
I'm good with this letter. Yeah, I mean, this, the Terrebonne Sanitary District is already tapping some of the really valuable infrastructure investment that was provided through the bipartisan infrastructure law. And this, just going back for a second bite of the apple, but that's what it's going to take to make this project move faster, get more property owners on board or engaged or literally connected.
Commissioner Adair?
Yes, I wouldn't say move faster, but yes.
Okay, so there's support for that letter.
Great, I'll circulate that. And then there's a letter that has not been circulated. It was sent directly to Commissioner DeBonne. It is a letter request. It's a request for a letter of support for a BRIC grant. It's the Building Resilience Infrastructure Community. I think I did those acronyms. Yeah, and communities grant that's typically run through FEMA. This is a grant request. It came from Oregon Living with Fire, but it's a grant request in partnership with Deschutes and Jefferson County to secure funding for the wildfire infrastructure resilience and emergency suppression systems, which would provide critical fire protection for the High Desert Museum and the museum at Warm Springs while reducing strain on emergency responders. Little backstory, they did apply for this in the 23-24 grant cycle. They got very close to getting selected, was the feedback they received, but they didn't get it fully. So they don't have to go through the full grant request this time, but they do need to supply letters of support for that. So I just wanted to, we have a little bit of time. We're not on the deadline of like next Tuesday for this letter. So I wanted to gauge commissioners' interest. If there's interest, I will draft up the letter in the board's format, and then I can bring it before you on Wednesday for other items for, I can send it to you on Tuesday to review and bring it to you on Wednesday for other items, but I just wanted to gauge support before we did that.
So we've had this in front of us before, and we're in that same situation where the federal funding may or may not flow in the future, but the package has been created already. And if this is just trying to tie up this year's package, possibility of happening is kind of unknown at this time. So Commissioner Adair, sorry.
No, I just wondered what they were asking for. What's the dollar amount?
Oh, I don't have it offhand. We got the email right here too.
I don't know if it has a dollar. Oh, here, let me pull up another document here.
Is this the last one we're considering?
This is the last one we're considering. The total budget for it is 6.3 million. I don't know if they're asking for the total amount.
So we can bring this back Wednesday, but
I can get that information by,
Thank you.
My only concern is what other BRIC applications are moving through the region, and are there competitive issues? Like, is there something we want more that this would compete with? But this project has been through the whole process before. It was a high priority. They got real close, and even though I want to know whether there might be things it's competing for, I'm good with the letter as is right now.
So let's bring it back for Wednesday for final acceptance, and then do you know who would have a feel for what the scope of applications are?
Yeah,
in this
usually I get a sense, usually departments reach out to me to some extent if we have other brick requests that involve the county, but I don't know if there's the senator's office would know, but I don't know if there's a way to get a sense
Yeah.
of all the brick requests. We only really would see them if they were requesting our support, and at this time I haven't heard of other
The only one we're
projects.
seeing, okay.
Yeah.
So we'll land this on Wednesday. Anything else for today? Oh, Tom Coon.
Just really quickly, our Public Health Advisory Board would also like to submit a letter of support for public health modernization funding, similar to the one the commissioners submitted.
But I think Commissioner Chang might have dropped off. He's got to transition himself from his home to the office for our 9:30, so it is just two of us right now, I think. I don't see him anymore.
And I'll send a copy of that over today.
Is it something that's already been discussed with the board, a bill, or not yet?
Yeah, it's 5025. It's just like the letter that the commissioners are gonna submit.
So yeah,
Okay.
public health modernization supported by the commissioners. This is our Public Health Advisory Board wanting an okay to put their names
Okay.
to a letter also.
Yes.
Commissioner Dare? Okay, yeah, it looks like there'd be support for that.
Thank you.
Anything else? Okay, well, we got there, 9:06 a.m. Thank you very much, Jen, for coordinating us on this. And as I say, any items we need to talk about on Wednesday, we can. Have a great holiday on Monday.
Everyone.